This is Local Legends, the podcast where West Michigan sports takes center stage. Hosted by three local voices who've lived and breathed area sports. Hutton, Oshnok, Bakita. High school football the way it's meant to be, covered by the experts who know it best. This is Local Legends. We're back for another episode of the Local Legends podcast, and hey, it's Bakita and Book, old friends back together, Brett, and we're talking about your neck of the woods. Today, we're focusing on Byron Center as we preview the 2025 Bulldogs. Head coach Marc Cisco will join us, getting ready for his 17th season as the head coach at Byron Center. And you and I have a lot of respect for pretty much every coach in this area. I mean, Cisco's at the top of the list for me. I mean, what he has done at Byron Center for the last 17 years, I mean, he does everything the right way.
And Jay, I know you think the same way I do too. When we talk about the head coaches, obviously they're the figureheads, but really they're coaching staffs too. And we know as we get to know these guys and these folks, you know, the depth they have, the experience, that's the same for Marc Cisco's group. And I was so happy for them to, as I say, welcome to the party kind of break through, because he's had some really good teams. As you know, they had never gotten past the round of the regional finals. They make it to the semifinals and then had that monster win over East Lansing, the team that knocked him out in the regional finals the year before, featuring Jace Clarizio, who's now playing for Michigan State this year. Great running back, maybe one of the best in the state, and they just shut him down defensively. And so for Marc Cisco and the Bulldogs to get there, that was kind of the exclamation point. Obviously, you want to win it. They fell short, but they played a very good Orchard Lake St. Mary's team in Division II, as you know, who returns a lot. I mean, they're going to be scary again this year. But I was just so happy for Byron Center. And when you look at it, G, I was thinking about this in the summer. You know, we're in the thick of the season and going through the playoffs. There's so many things and storylines to think about. But what really a year for the southwest side of Grand Rapids. And with the division realignment, you know, two of the teams that made it to Ford Field didn't even win their division. That's how good they were and how deep they were. That was the case with Byron Center. Mona Shores won the OK Green last year and beat him in the regular season. And obviously the same can be said. Hudsonville won the OK Red outright. But when you look at Zeeland West, they didn't win what we thought was maybe the deepest division of the OK Gold last year. That was Unity Christian who went unbeaten.
Well, that's something we're going to talk about throughout this year with year two of the River Cities Alliance. And by all accounts, year one was really, really good for those 7 schools that parted from the OK Conference. And we can talk about football-only divisions and what's going on with the OK Conference, and is there some reason for concern moving forward. But honestly, in football, and I know they were different in other sports, you know, I mean, what we saw, just to your point, you got teams that didn't even win the division make it to Ford Field. Then, of course, you had Hudsonville, who we talked about in the last episode, that did win the OK Red, got to Ford Field. But yeah, Unity Christian wins the OK Gold, but Zeeland West goes to the state championship game. Of course, they were in different divisions. But then when you look at the OK Green, Mona Shores won the regular season matchup, won the conference title. Byron Center comes back and beats the Sailors in the district final and then gets to Ford Field. So the competition, at least at the top of these divisions, was really good in football last year.
And Jay, I don't have the numbers or the history in front of me. Obviously, there was a day, and now it's kind of coming back to roost, where Troy Catholic Central, Birmingham Brother Rice, they were always involved somewhat, right, and had powerhouse programs. Now you're seeing maybe a Davison on the east side of the state that falls in that category. But when I look at, if you drew a circle of about 50 miles using the center of Grand Rapids, which is our coverage area, right, including Muskegon with the OK Conference, how good the coaches are and the staffs that we see, how good these players are as far as coached up, the schemes they run. I mean, it's almost like we're watching small college football. And I want fans to understand that, respect that, because they're so good. And we say that because coaches praise each other, and they're not just doing it to pat each other on the back. They know from preparation, whether it's a non-conference game or maybe before this division realignment, they had to face them within the division, like a John Shillito in Zeeland West and a Marc Cisco and Byron Center. Remember the days in the old OK Green? And they make each other better. They challenge each other to push the envelope a little bit with what they do. And we get to see that on Friday nights. How cool is that? And my point being, when you look at how many different teams, regardless of division, we've had make it to a state championship game in our coverage area, even in just the last 15 years, it's an incredible number. I don't think you see that anywhere else in the state.
Yeah, we've been spoiled. I don't think there's any questioning that. I mean, we've been spoiled by the quality of football, the quality of people that make football really good over here. I'm 100% on your side with that. You know, make each other better. Like Hudsonville Byron Center are going to play
Right.
week 1. That's going to be the 9-6-1 game of the week for you. Easy choice and a loaded week. But, I don't know if they're always happy that they have to play each other, because it's always tough to play a really tough game, right? But that's where we're at. And you're right. To have 2 local teams, the quality of Hudsonville and Byron Center play week 1, that's the reward is for us, people like you and I and the fans, and it's going to be really fun. Well, let's talk 2025 Byron Center, right, Brett? Because yes, last year, amazing season. They have a lot to replace. Landon Tungate, Luke Laska, Isaac Lee. I mean, these guys, Kellen Payne. I mean, the list goes on. There are a lot of really good football players for Byron Center to replace. What do you see here?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things when we get into our conversation with Marc Cisco, he's going to talk about is not only, let's say, maybe a 2-way starter that he has to replace that was part of that senior class, but guys that have played on the varsity for maybe 3-4 years. I mean, that's what Byron Center, their MO was in this group. That's why I was happy for them to accomplish what they did, because that goes down in history and they'll never forget that. But I mean, a Landon Tungate, a Kellen Payne, people didn't know, I didn't know, and I live in this community, Kellen Payne, and how good he would be his senior year after not even playing his junior, because he's a Division I baseball standout. So that was kind of his focus. Comes back, plays with his brother, who's going to be one to watch as far as a running back this year, now in his junior year, but played last year on varsity as a sophomore. And that's kind of been the staple of what Marc Cisco, and you see other coaches do this, Jay. They're not afraid to play kids if they're ready, especially with the numbers the way they were coming off of COVID, younger. And so therefore they have varsity experience. Landon Tungate, I'm still shocked that 4 years I covered this guy at the varsity level. I remember him playing in a game at Forest Hill Central in the rain as a freshman at quarterback.
Yeah, well, he got dinged up as a sophomore. We saw Easton Weichers, when Tungate was a junior, Weichers was a sophomore. We saw Easton Weichers play quarterback. Now, we're going to talk to Coach Cisco here in a minute, and he's going to talk about the quarterback situation. I'm a firm believer that it will be Easton Weichers, and I like him. I think he's going to be good. You talked about campaign, Tate Bainbridge. I mean, there is also some talent coming back, but, a lot to replace. It's going to be fun to watch. Let's get to that interview now with Marc Cisco, head coach of Byron Center, as we preview the 2025 Bulldogs. Thanks for joining us. How's the summer going, and how excited are you for year number 16?
Summer's been great. It's been hot, so I like it. I'm all about the heat. My neighbor complains about it being cold all the time in the winter, and they was complaining a few weeks ago about it being too hot. So I just laughed and walked away. But summer for our program has been good. We've had steady numbers in the weight room. We don't do a ton in the summer relative to most programs. So I want our kids to be fresh and ready to go. I want them to like me in October, not dislike me because they're tired of being around me. So, it's been a good summer. Hopefully we're ready to go. We'll have our hands full for really much the entirety of the season. So,
Marc, congratulations on a great season at 12-2. You guys end at Ford Field in Division II. And can you just put into words what that means as far as a program, not necessarily even for you, but your coaching staff, the kids? I mean, I live in this community. I saw what it did for the student body, let alone the student athletes who were participating. But there is something as you go through it to it now, right, as you get ready for another season after it?
Sure. I mean, number one, it was a blast. Like, everybody had a good time. It was long. I mean, Coach, Peter Sturzman used to tell me about how long it was, and it seemed like it never ended. And so you go through that phase a little bit, but having the soccer team play in the finals, then we got to play in the finals. Swim team was second in the state. Girls soccer team won state. I mean, it just changes really the perception of kids of what they're capable of. And, it takes a lot of luck and a lot of things going your way to get to those points. But at the same time, if you don't think you can get there, then you're probably not gonna.
Well, tell us a little bit about your 2025 group. Obviously, right, you graduated some amazing seniors, and you always walk that balance between, well, you got to replace those guys, but at the same point, how much do you hope that they leave behind something that will help the younger guys, the guys coming up, try to continue what they built?
Sure. We lose a lot of game experience, some things that took place just because those guys have been around enough to just know, and they could make adjustments and do things on the fly that a lot of kids probably aren't able to do. And it takes time to do that, right? At the same time, those guys practice hard and they liked practicing. And you like to have that, right? You hope that the guys that are coming back had a good time with them doing that. Because that's the thing that's going to make you better, really. Not how much you practice, but really how hard you practice. When I say hard, I don't mean necessarily physical all the time, but just focused intensity and understanding the importance of all the finer details that take place. And, we're 2 hours period, and then we're out the door, and we're not going to extend it at all. That's their time to be in football. And so there's little things that can be picked up during practice if you're paying attention.
Mark, I'm a big believer as you go through a season like you did that win or lose, there's usually a game that you point to and say, that's where maybe the season changed, or that's where maybe the kids realized, like you said, what they could do, their potential. To me, the Mona Shores regular season game jumps out. We were there. I saw it. It was a very competitive game, but one that, you guys could have easily won too. Is there a game that you can point to and say that we knew that we could be state finalists after that, or changed our season?
Well, I don't know if we ever knew we could be state finalists. I mean, until you've reached that point, you just never think you're going to make it, to be honest. I mean, and guys that have been there know that. And guys that haven't been there, just, you walk away every season going, are we going to ever make it there? I don't know that there was necessarily a turning point of the season. That game, the Mona Shores game, obviously was a big game for us because we played without a few kids and still had opportunities to win the game. I think we saw a lot of growth by a lot of younger kids on our team that night. And so that certainly helped out.
All right, Coach. So let's, we look at your roster and we already talked about how much game experience you lose. So let's just kind of start at the top there. Landon Tungate was such a good quarterback for you, and he's going to be obviously very difficult to replace. What's the outlook for Byron Center at quarterback, and how do you try to get that position where you want it to be to have success this fall?
Well, I think it's in good hands. Both Easton Weichers and Tate Bainbridge played there 2 years ago when Landon was hurt. Both played significantly in important games. East Kentwood, Forest Hills Northern, pressed into action because Landon was banged up. And then, Landon took the majority of the snaps last fall. But when Easton came in the game, we didn't necessarily suffer. He was still moving the ball well. He's probably a little bit better runner than he gets credit for. And Tate Bainbridge played the second most plays of anybody on our team at two positions he's never played before, which means he's pretty much capable of just filling in where you need him to and being pretty good. Both are super smart kids too, academically, which helps, right? And then the two JV kids, King Van Kampen, who had an outstanding baseball season, and Brady Hartson, both, split time last year on the JV. We do that on our JV and freshman levels. We always split time because you just never know who's going to be around, or is somebody going to get hurt and now a guy's got to play. So that makes it a little tough sometimes for younger guys, but in the grand scheme of things, they've both played in fourth quarters of big games at the JV level. So they just have to learn to operate at a higher level, to throw the ball in tighter windows, to handle the pressure of noise and movement by opponents, and just the physicality of it.
Let me just follow up real quick on that, Coach. It was interesting to me. You played two guys at quarterback at the freshman JV level, which is that's intriguing to me. When did you go to that? Why? And just how has it worked out for you?
We've done that since I've been here for a couple of reasons. Number one, so many times people have gone through a season with their guy at quarterback and boom, that guy twists an ankle, or worse yet, miss more time. What are you going to do, right? You got to have somebody kids know and kids trust. So that's part of it. The other part of it was just making sure that you never know who was going to move away. For a while there, when we were transitioning from a farming community into a suburban community, the suburban people that came in were here until 8th grade, and then their parents got jobs in Chicago, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, and they were gone, Louisville, and boom, 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 boom. So they disappeared. And a lot of those kids were in my neighborhood and were friends of our family. So I just thought at the time that if you didn't have two quarterbacks, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to run into trouble somewhere, especially at the high school level. And really, sometimes we had 3 and 4. I mean, in 2015, Reed Vandenberg was an all-conference guard who played quarterback up until his senior year. And I used to let him go out and throw him pregame. And, boy, opposing fans that have good times seeing number 58 out there throwing, pat and go in pregame. So it served us well. 2 years ago at Kentwood, we went through 5 quarterbacks in that game. Tungate played there. Woburn played there. Alaska played in that game. Whitechurch and Bainbridge all played in that game. And they were all ready to go, and our kids trusted them and knew that they could function within our offense, and we didn't have to make grand scheme changes. So we've been lucky with that. It's been a fight at times with parents. It's been a fight with coaches even sometimes, because who plays in the fourth quarter? Usually we let them flip a coin, and then they can pick and choose what quarters they play in. But and it's hard to do that. But our coaches have really bought into that. We do it at the middle school level as well. And really it's benefited us, I think, in the long run.
Obviously, you're more than one player, but one player I've got to ask you about, because I've watched him since he's a freshman. He just has never looked like a freshman to me. He had a big play, obviously, in the state finals for you and a big run. And I think it helped him learning from his brother last year, who was a senior, who came back and played with you guys. But how good going to be a junior or running back for you? How good can Cam Payne be, Coach?
No, the sky's the limit, right? I mean, he's 6 foot tall. He's 210 to 215 pounds, depending on the day. He's one of the fastest guys on our team. He's a 9.5 foot broad jumper, like all the things. And he's never really trained for football. Like it's all, he's been a baseball guy, and his football's he's done them both concurrently, but he's never really taken the time to do that. He's a physical kid. I think that was the biggest transition in his game this year, was showing some physicality against bigger players. Like he's always been the bigger guy, right, when he was growing up. And now he's playing against people, that's not the case. And he really upped his physicality for sure with us. And like his brother, I mean, he's just game smart. He's been around, he's watched a ton of games. He's always played baseball at a high level, and you can't replicate that, right? So like I said, the sky's the limit. He'll be as good as we want on both sides of the ball for us.
Yeah, no doubt. 22 campaign is going to be a guy to watch this year for sure. He was outstanding last year on the way to Fort Fields as a sophomore. All right, let's talk about this team. This group, obviously it's early, practice is just about to get started. We've got a long ways to go. As you sit here and look at it and evaluate it as a coaching staff, what do you see as areas where you guys pinpoint and say, we have to be good here. We have to find a way to do this, make up for this, if we want to get to where we want to be this year? Is there an area where you see that?
Well, we're a split staff, and I try to keep my nose out of some stuff. But, number one thing is defensively, we have a ton of bodies to replace defensively. I think we started 8 or 9 seniors defensively, played some other guys periodically. But, again, our kids have to get a lot of experience really fast, and that includes practice. And we split our team for the first 2 weeks evenly. We've done that probably for the last 6 years. So they actually kind of compete against each other. Because I think developing depth at the high school level is really, really, really important. And I've kind of learned my lesson along the way doing that. And that's the best way to do it, is put some guys, you don't have a first team. We don't have that. We have an orange team against the white team, and we keep reps and keep track of how that goes during the day. And it's not huge, but again, it creates a higher level, a higher standard of play and of drill work and so on and so forth, because kids actually believe they have a chance. And if they believe they have a chance to play more, they're going to pay attention and practice harder. So defensively, we had a lot of guys that played last year, but not a lot of guys that played big minutes. And so, and you could look across the board on our defense, and you're going to see that, right? I mean, I heard you saying that we had to replace the secondary, which is a true statement. We had to replace the 2 linebackers, but we've played 4. We have to replace 2 DNs that were starters for us that were both outstanding players. We have to replace a D tackle. So there's a lot of kids that have to play and play well early for us.
Coach, when you look at the schedule, I know some of it's in your control, some of it's not. And obviously, as you get better, it falls into the category like we talk with a lot of teams where teams might not want to play you or whatever. But when you look at it, Hudsonville to open, East Kentwood, Hammond, Indiana, which you don't have to tell the audience about Hammond, Indiana. They always have athletes, and they're always competitive. And then you go Muskegon and Mona Shores in OK Green play. Wow, what a first 5 weeks. But I know you guys embrace that, right?
Sure. I mean, it's an opportunity. You're going to play in big stages against really good teams very early, against really good athletes, really good coaches. So the good news is that you can't waste time during the preseason, right? And the kids know that. So that kind of heightens the focus a little bit early on, and is a little less of us coaches kind of dragging kids or pushing kids through the first 2 weeks of the season. But yeah, if we have bodies left after those 5 games physically, we'll have a chance to be okay. But it's not unlike Granville's schedule last year. They're a darn good football team, but boy, they were taking on the teeth early. And you have to have kids that are really mentally tough that can handle that and understand that situation and don't get frustrated. So that'll be really important for us.
I want to ask you specifically about week 1 and playing Hudsonville. Obviously, Hudsonville goes to the D1 state final. You go to the D2 state final, and you guys come together here. I don't think Byron Center and Hudsonville have ever played in football, but, this matchup, obviously, people like Brett and I and the fans, and week 1 is loaded with great matchups on our side of the state, right? But in my mind, Brett's going to be there calling that game. That's the premier game. Do you just try to, not worry about that and just hey, we got to be what we got to be? Or do you guys take any opportunity to embrace, hey, we're playing in a marquee game here in this area?
So, yeah, we're playing in a marquee game in this area. And if I said anything different, our kids would just look at me and think I'm a liar, and everything else that came out of my mouth, I'd be lying too, right? Yeah, it's a great opportunity for them, right? I mean, and we are always first game focused. You need to play well in the first game. I don't care. You don't have time to get better. You have 9 days from the start of practice really till you start the week game prep. Some schools are less, but the max is 9 days just to get through some detailed stuff. So you better be ready to go early, because then you have the 4 days just to get ready for them. And we've done a lot of summer work with them prior to that. So we know they're very similar. They're extremely physical. They were extremely physical in the playoffs last year and during the regular season. So that's a big game, and that's the only game that's on our schedule right now.
Mark, last question from me, and I think it happened. It was a crazy scenario, but take us back to, I think, COVID, when you guys had to find a game and you went down to Indiana and played. And I remember talking to you as part of our scoreboard show after that. Rick Berkey was doing the interview, and you were so excited. The kids were excited. It was just a crazy game that you pulled out and won. But I was thinking about the bonding time that you had as a team, and now you still have a Hammond on your schedule, Morris, Illinois on your schedule. Have you come to where – maybe with other coaches too, you embrace that a little bit because it's almost like a college feel or a bonding moment? Or is it still that, oh man, we have to do these long trips?
That was, I think, 2021. We played Seaholm because the COVID game got canceled in 2020. So we're 3 hours on a bus. There's no air conditioning in their locker room. So we sat on the bus right up until game time. There's no place to hide. We drove back. There was a car accident on 96. So we got stuck in traffic. It was a Thursday night because we hadn't started school before Labor Day until then. And so we got back at 1 in the morning, and our kids were in school at 7:30. I'm like, I'll see y'all at 7:30. Have a good time. But going into that, prior to that game, I had kids raise their hand. How many people started a game on this team? And there was one kid in the room that raised his hand. So that was bonding time for them on the bus. And then Middleville had the COVID issue, so we had to find a game, and we went down to Elkhart play Shattuck when he was at Elkhart. So there's another 2 hours. It was actually shorter for us to go down there than it was to go to the east side. But we had some east side guys call. I'm like, hey, I'm going to Elkhart. It's closer. But again, it's a couple hours down. It's a couple hours back. You're playing a double overtime game. You can't get off the field because they had an incident in the parking lot. And again, so here's stories for kids that don't know each other very well to sit around and be with each other. And that type of situation. So I think that really helped us. And if you'd have said we were going to win 7 games that year, I probably would have laughed at you, along with our kids. But we did, and we made it in the playoffs and played pretty well in the first round before losing to Caledonia. But I think that was a big deal. And now you have to find a game, and where's it going to be? And around here it's filled. So then where are you going to go? Well, you're going to have to go 190 miles to the east side of the state, or you're going to have to go somewhere outside of the state. So, and then you have to find people that are going to play. Which isn't always easy. And I understand that. And I think our kids do too. So, picking up Hammond was good. I know Mac knows the area and knows the football in the state of Michigan pretty good. He's done a really good job down there at Hammond, dealing with some tough circumstances for sure. Yes, he has athletes, but there's a lot of other things that they have to take care of too, is to really create a good football program. And then we picked up Morris on a whim last year, and they've been in the finals multiple times in the state of Illinois, and they're gritty, and got on the bus and drove 3.5 hours. And I've driven that way 3 times this summer and just shake my head like, man, because construction's awful just east of Morris, and it's going to be a long night. So yeah, kids are going to have to grow up fast from, high school kids to grown-ups. So
Byron Center head coach Marc Cisco, we cannot thank you enough for the time. You've always been great to us over the years. We look forward to watching your team compete this fall. The season's already here. Thanks for the time, and best of luck in 2025.
You're welcome. Appreciate you guys having me on. Appreciate all the work you guys do with this. I mean, I know a lot of people, hang by your guys' words for sure, and probably rightfully so. So appreciate all your homework and all the work you do for us.
Feel bad for those people. Thanks, Coach.
Good luck, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
All right, so you want to be good, right? You want to get to Ford Field. So this is your reward. At Hudsonville, home for East Kentwood. You go to Indiana to play Hammond, and then you come back to Open Green, play with Mona Shores and Muskegon. First 2 games of division play. That's as tough of a 5-game start as I can imagine having to a season. What's your level of concern here for Byron Center with all these new guys that they're going to have to play? Where are they going to be after 5 weeks?
I love it in the fact that that's kind of the talk around here, Jay, as you know, is when the OK Conference division realigns again with the growth we're seeing in communities like Hudsonville. You saw it with Caledonia as well, and Byron Center. The Byron Center is going to be eventually an OK Red team. So I think that not only do people not want to play them maybe that are Division II or Division III like they used to in the past, they have that going with it, which we've seen with other programs. I just think that, Marc Cisco and the rest of them are getting ahead of the curve. They know that this is going to help them, even though they might take some lumps. And when you look at it, here's the other thing I was thinking about, Jay, just from talent pool of what you know. And for those people who don't know Hammond, Indiana, they're always producing usually Division I players. It's a matter of how collectively they can come together. Byron Center went down and beat them in an impressive game last year. And so now they kind of have that on the schedule, but they have loaded players. So if you look at the first 3, Hudsonville, we know what they return. Very good. East Kentwood with Cade Kaufman going to Michigan State as their quarterback returning for his senior year. And then you throw in Hammond. Is it crazy to think, and you and I know how much talent, especially you, has come out of Muskegon and Mona Shores, that Muskegon and Mona Shores might be the least talented of those 5 teams as far as individual talent. Not saying they're easy. So let's see how much they learn from that. But if Byron Center can go and get a win at Hudsonville in week 1, what a shot in the arm that would be for this program of these kids.
It would be. And I mean, I think 3-2, if Byron Center's 3-2, I would call that an incredible success because the schedule is that tough that early. We can't wait for 2025. It's going to be an incredible year. Brett and Buck Gino have the call Thursday night, August 28th, week 1, Byron Center at Hudsonville. What a way to start the season.
Oh, I can't wait. And you know what? It's the first time ever, as we talked about with Marc Cisco, these 2 programs have ever played together.
This has been the latest edition of the Local Legends podcast. More previews on the way.